See ya. All right, now we are live. Okay, so yeah, I had a little issue getting us started, but now we are live. So thank you for joining us. We're just a few minutes late. I'm kind of a rookie, as you notice that Seth is not here with us, so I had to. I'm the captain now. I'm running this ship, and unfortunately, I didn't hit the right buttons. So So now we are up and going. So yeah, thank you for joining us. This is a Visual Arts Academy and Studio in Louisville, Kentucky, Middletown to be exact. And we do this live stream every Saturday from 6 to 8. My name is Chad Nuss, also known as the Humble Wizard, and we have with us a special guest, Miss Sarah. She is one of our instructors at Voss, and we're really excited to have her on here. This is her first time, so yeah, so be gentle and nice and kind and ask her really good questions, and we'll have a great discussion. So, the first thing that we like to talk about when we start this is what we're working on. So, Sarah, if you could share a little bit about what you are working on there, and then maybe if you want to talk a little bit about the classes that you teach at Voss, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, hey, I'm excited to be here. So I'm actually working on something I started a long time ago, and just playing around in oils and kind of just going back in and just like reshaping some features and get some more paint on it. It's actually a picture I took in my apartment with my cat
Oh, nice. Yeah.
that is sleeping under a statue I used to have. So
Yeah.
just
Was
playing
that is
around,
that
having
a
fun.
is that a photograph there that you have?
Yeah, little
Nice.
print
Oh,
off
and you
photograph.
that's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's down at the bottom is my cat Freya that is no longer with me, but this is kind of like a nice little memorial piece for her, so it's fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really awesome. Well, cool. As you can see here, the Visual Arts Academy Studio, aka probably Seth, said we love Sarah. So awesome. So thank you once again for being on with us. And if you could maybe share a little bit about how you got involved with Voss and maybe some of the classes that you've been teaching, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I got involved with Voss. I was just looking to getting back into teaching and just finding that art community and got in with Voss and I've been doing watercolor classes and um, colored pencil classes for all ages.
Hmm.
So it's been great being a part of the team and just getting to meet so many new faces and teach art.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I terrified Sarah a little bit before we got on here, and I said I have a list of questions, and exactly I have actually 30 questions uh, to
Wow.
interrogate her with. I'll try not to be too what do I want to say? This is definitely not an interview, but it's just we want to get to know you and have an opportunity for you to share a little bit about yourself. And yeah,
Well, my
so
my lights are so booming. They're fitting. They're kind of like interrogation lights.
oh yeah.
So I got that down.
Oh, that's funny. So I actually, before I get to that, I will say I will talk a little bit about what I'm working on today. So last couple weeks I was working on this here, this page, which I was able to get done. And so this is page 6 of my current book that I'm working on. This is a big splash page there, and you see the spaceship kind of being launched by that launch pad there down in the right hand corner. And I tried to do a bit of a fish islands effect as it's racing up towards you as the viewer. And so that page, I was able to finally get it done, put in all the trees and everything. So I'm pretty happy with that page. Glad to be done with that. I've done a string of about 6 splash pages, and a splash page in comic book is basically when the whole page is one picture. And so I'm looking forward to moving on to more traditional pages. So that's what I'm going to work on now. This is actually going to be page 10, which is a big jump from 6, obviously. But after page 6, page 7 is a title page. So the first 6 pages is like an opening scene. Then page 7 is a title page. And then page 8 and 9 is another splash page, but it's a double page. And I really didn't want to do another splash page. I wanted to move on to something a little more traditional. So this one that I'm about to work on is a 2-panel page. So it's kind of a splash page. The top half is the main scene, and then there's a panel at the bottom, and that will start the kind of transition in a more traditional type of comic book drawing with panels and that kind of thing. So where I'm at with this page, basically what I'm doing is picking up the story from issue number 2. Towards the end of issue number 2, there was a spacecraft that crash landed into a skyscraper in the city. And so now our two of our main characters, Naomi and Dr. Polaris, they're going to investigate the crash. And so what you're going to see in the top panel is kind of an inside view of the wreckage, and then you'll see them kind of sorting through and looking through what's going on. In the bottom, the bottom panel will be a shot from above, looking over and down Dr. Player's shoulder, and he's standing over the door of the spaceship. And so then on the next couple of pages, you'll start to see as uncover who's in the spaceship and what's going on with that. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with my project here. So Sarah, what mediums do you like to work in? I know you mentioned color pencil and watercolor. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what I teach at the studio. At home, I kind of dabble in everything. Watercolors, absolutely my favorite. I have a big spot in my heart for watercolor. I don't know if anything will ever top it, but yeah, I love playing around in oils, and I even like making sculptures out of oil-based clays. Kind of all sorts of stuff. Love mixed media stuff. I've been recently using a lot of this primer called like absorbent ground. So you can paint it on different surfaces. You can paint it on canvases and wood, and you can use, like water-based. You can use watercolor or acrylic inks on it really well. It creates like an absorbent surface that you wouldn't. It's kind of like paper. So that's kind of been my latest endeavor. Is
Yeah.
using that.
So watercolor at Voss, the watercolor classes have, I think, been the most popular. What is it about watercolor for
Yeah.
you that you really love about that medium?
Oh, I think part of it's just trying to. It's a hard medium to control, and I've always liked that challenge and um, kind of pressure behind watercolor.
Mm-hmm.
Things are drying so quickly, and learning, the best time to lay in colors, depending on how wet or dry your paper is, and I also just love the look. It's such a unique look, that kind of opaque, chalky, transparent look. I don't know. I've always loved it.
Yeah, I feel like watercolor for me seems very intimidating. I honestly, the only time I've done watercolor was the time that you led a little demonstration for
Really.
us. Yeah, and so I don't have a lot of experience with watercolor. The thing I don't like about watercolor, not to sound like
Hmm.
negative, but like it's so unforgiving. It's like
Yes.
you have a very small window of your ability to use the medium before, like you said, it dries, or if you overwork it, it gets muddy really fast. So it's like you have to be really delicate and super intentional. Like you have to know exactly what you're doing with the color and with the paint because of that factor, because it's so gentle and like delicate. Um, yeah, I always very much appreciate when someone knows what they're doing with watercolor because I know how hard it is a medium to really master. So yeah, that's amazing that you,
Absolutely.
yeah. How
Yeah,
long have
everything
you?
you just said is most people's stress with it or frustration with it is just learning that, it is a little unforgiving, but it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of nice. It's kind of like accepting those flaws too, where they are and learning from them and then, learning to avoid it the next time.
Yeah, in some ways that's similar to pen and ink, which I'm not as nervous with pen and ink. I think maybe it's because in the back of my mind I know with pen and ink, you always have either whiteout or you can scan it into a computer and fix it if you really need to. But um, I've done a couple pen and ink seminars, and one of the things that I try to encourage students and I try to encourage myself with is to just draw with the pen and not worry about the mistakes and just let those mistakes add to the character of your drawing. And I feel like it's the same with watercolor, that you can plan it out,
Hmm.
but at the end of the day, like you're going to make some or you, not necessarily mistakes, but you might add some brush strokes or some fields of color you didn't intend, but you just, as that's part of being an artist, is knowing how to kind of work with those little imperfections, I guess you could say. So
And also just accepting them too, and most people, they look at your work and they won't even be able to pick out something that you did that you didn't like. And, so I think there's a lot of just learning to accept when it comes to watercolor.
yeah, that's I remember a couple, maybe about a month ago or whatever, Seth was working on his oil painting and he talked about making this really bad mistake. And I don't work with a whole lot of oil paintings, so I don't know really any better. So when I looked at it, I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even see the mistake here. And he pointed out like this one little mark here, and it was like, I forget how he explained it, but basically it was like you overworked it or whatever. And I was like, it was part of the floorboard that he was painting, and he did something to it where it just didn't
Uh-huh,
work out the
I
way he wanted
remember.
it. Yeah, and I looked at it and I was like, it looks like part of the floor. Like the floorboard, it looks like one of those imperfections in the wood. I didn't even know that what he did was wrong, I guess you could say. And I think it's the same thing with something like pen and ink or watercolor where most people are not going to know. Like unless they're
Hmm.
experts at watercolor or oil painting or they have some experience with it, they're not going to know what to look for, if there's something wrong with it or whatever. So
And
yeah,
I
I
tell my
think
students, don't point it out.
yeah,
When the
exactly.
work's finished, I'm like, just don't point it out.
A hundred
Yeah, I've
percent.
had to
And
learn that the hard way.
I think there's a lot of artists that are like that, like self-deprecating in that sense, where they'll show a drawing or a painting to someone, and they'll immediately say something like, "Oh yeah, this is not my best," or "This isn't really that great because I messed this part up." And it's like, well, a lot of people, like you said, a lot of people don't are not even going to see that. They're not even going to know. They're going to look at it and be like, "Man, this you have such amazing talent. This looks so beautiful," or "This moves me. I really connect with this," or whatever. They're not looking for those little details that maybe you don't like. And I think
Hmm.
all artists can tend to be a bit hypercritical of themselves. I actually was thinking about that the other day because I went back and looked through one of my old comic books that I drew, and I think it was like volume two from the Silence. I was just kind of reading through just to remind myself the story. I was looking at some of the panels, and I looked at some of the details, and for me, it was like, oh, I could have inked that so much better. I could have done this a little bit better. But the reality is, like, that your average person looking at it is not going to see those small details. But because I
No.
work, yeah, but because I work in the medium and I see others like professionals the way they do it, you notice it, but other people aren't. So you have to really be patient with yourself and gracious with yourself, like you said, which is really good.
Or sometimes you
So
you stare at something so long, and then maybe you take a break for a while, and then you come back and you're like, I don't actually know what I didn't like. I can't find it anymore. I like when that
yeah.
happens.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's valuable for like stepping away from a piece is valuable on multiple levels and not just stepping away from it, but like physically stepping away from it in the sense when you're drawing, sometimes it's good to step back or painting and see it from afar, but sometimes it's good to step away from it and not look at it at all for a little while, just to give
Hmm.
yourself some fresh eyes when you go back to look at it. I've experienced that so many times when I'm drawing something, I just don't like the way it's going. I can't figure out how to fix it. I'm like, I'm just gonna go do something else for a while, and then I'll come back to it. I'm like, oh, that was actually not as bad as I thought it was. Or I'll look at it and be like, okay, I see what I did here. I can fix this, or whatever it is. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
valuable. So as you're teaching and you're going through these classes, what are some goals or some hopes and dreams that you have for your students?
Definitely for my students to find confidence in themselves. That's
Yeah.
a big thing to me, and it feels really good to, especially, I mean, all ages, but especially when you get some of those kids that come in and they're real shy, and and then after maybe the third or fourth lesson, their parent comes up to you and they're like, "Man, they're just, I can just tell how much her confidence has gone up," and I mean, that's a really great moment. Um, Another thing I like to focus on too is that uh, just that my students end the semester feeling uh, confident again in like the colors that they can choose on their own. And I really push them to pick out their own colors in class, because if your instructor is picking them out for you, and then when the semester's over, you get home, it feels overwhelming. That's what I want to avoid. I want every student to be able to go home and feel like in control of their art and the choices of that they make, especially in color theory.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you find like what do you think is the biggest challenge in doing that as far as like because I know a lot of students, they'll come in, maybe they won't have that confidence, and you could tell them to your blue in the face, like, hey, this is, this thing that you did, this drawing, this painting, whatever it is, this is really good. And you could tell them, like I just experienced this just today or yesterday. A student showed me a drawing that they worked on at actually in their high school, and I was looking at it and I was like, man, this is really good. It was a portrait of a singer, and they had to use the lyrics of the song to make the portrait. And so she
Oh,
showed
that's
me
cool.
what yeah, she showed me what she had made, and it looked like the artist, and on top of that, like the way she was able to control using type to create texture and shading and everything was amazing, especially for her age. And I told her that I was like, this is incredible. And she just was like, well, it's not that great, whatever, blah blah blah. And you're just like, man, sometimes you feel like, what else do I need to tell you for you to believe that this is actually really good? So, what do you feel like for you? How do you try to encourage someone like that?
I just stay consistent with the encouragement, and I don't push it too hard, because I can absolutely relate to that. There's days that I see some of my artwork and I feel like it's not good, and I think as long as there's that consistent encouragement, people sometimes have to get there on their own.
Yeah,
Um,
that's really good. Yeah.
Also, just being available for questions. I always try to get my students to ask me as many questions as possible, because I feel like gaining more knowledge helps you in that department too, of being confident in your art,
Yeah, I
but
really
mostly
like
just patience.
yeah, that's really good. I liked what you said about them, like they have to get there. They have to arrive there themselves because exactly like you said, like you can as I was saying before, you can just tell them over and over again, but it's not really going to land until something clicks in their head. So it's
Hmm.
like it's almost like you can't logic someone into realizing that what they've done is really good, or to celebrate it, or at least appreciate it. One of the things I'm always telling students is like, if they've done a drawing that they don't like, they don't feel confident about it. I always remind them, like, you're not every drawing you make is not going to be the best drawing you've ever made. That's part of growing as an artist. Like, so don't feel weird or embarrassed or whatever that whatever you just made is not what you feel like is your best. Just use that as a learning opportunity to continue to grow. And I think that's something that artists have to constantly remind themselves, is that we're all in a process of growth. So like even if you are confident with your skill, or you are legitimately, the best at what you do, you're still going to be learning and developing, and trying new things, and working on, parts that you, I don't know, skills that you just don't feel as confident in, or whatever it is, so that's something we have to
Yeah. Also,
constantly
just
remind.
yeah,
Go ahead.
and validating that it's okay to not like your art too. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with having pieces that you don't like. And I mean, I was joking with one of my students the other day because I was like, it would be kind of weird to love every single thing you did and not have one single quarrel with it at all. That's
Yeah.
very out of the ordinary.
Yep.
But just, it's like it doesn't matter how good you are, there's going to be pieces that you do where, especially if you're kind of trying to go out of your normal box, that you're like, that was a hit and a miss. You might get one that's amazing, you're like, this is great and I love it, and you might get another one that you just don't like, and it's okay to not like it, but
Yep.
somebody might like it, and trust that they like it, because there's artwork I have that I don't like that people tell me is their favorite of mine. And just to allow others to like the art that you don't like too. I think it helps
That
you let go of that a little bit.
Yeah, that is exactly right. We over the summer had a sketchbook seminar, excuse me, and yeah, I had that very conversation with one of the students, because they were feeling so down about what they drew, and I looked at it, I was like, first of all, I think it's good, but even beyond that, if you're not confident in this thing, just realize that there's going to be someone else that it might speak to them. So, your intention may have been for this thing to be like hyper realistic or whatever. Um,
Hmm.
and maybe it didn't reach that, but to someone else, they might love the, I don't know, what you would consider as an artist awkwardness, or character of the drawing. Someone else might love that. So like, yeah, it's you just have to, that's exactly what you said was really good, because it's so true. You have to remind yourself that other people might see something in it that you don't see, so that's always
Right. And then
good reminder.
that's what art's all about too, is just striking emotion in people, and everybody's so different that something that you might not like really makes someone feel something else or remember a memory. And
Yeah.
that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I have to often remind myself of that when I see some abstract work that I don't like. I always have to remind myself, like, yeah, you might not like the colors or the choice, or yeah, and like, for example, there's a big movement as far as in contemporary art for painters to make these pretty elaborate paintings or whatever of figures, and but the figures are not like anatomically correct, and they're a little bit wonky, and the painting is not technically amazing, but if for whatever reason that's like the in thing right now, and I have a hard time with that, but I have to remind myself, like, that's not my preference, but that is preference for other people. And I follow a couple of like critics, or would be critics, or whatever, self-appointed critics on social media, because I just like to see what other people say about different kinds of art. And it is interesting to see, there'll be something that I think is trash, and the other person be like, this is incredible, this is genius, blah blah blah. And it just kind of like checks you, because you're like, how arrogant is it for me to be like, well, this is trash? But I have to remind myself, it's just not your preference. It's not that it's bad, or that, like, whatever. I mean, there'll be sometimes I don't even care. I'm like, no, that's trash. I don't care what the other person says. But for
Right,
the
but
most
what's one
part,
man's trash is another man's treasure.
exactly, 100%. And so, yeah, that's what I have to constantly remind myself. Like, it's very subjective, and what one person likes, exactly what you just said. Yeah. So, Matt has a comment here. Let's see what he has to say. He says, "I think as artists, because I, th- I think as artists because like you both have said, we stare at it for hours on end, and we tend to point out our flaws, flaws no one other than professional artists or professors would ever know. But to think all our art is great can be prideful, which is easy to become when the views and clients always give us praises." So yeah, that's exactly right. First of all, thank you, Matt, for that comment, and it's good to hear from you. And I always appreciate your feedback. And he always throws out really awesome comments and questions, but this is one of them. That's exactly right. Like we have a tendency to point out our own flaws or focus on the ways in which maybe some we drew just or painted just did not go the way that we had hoped. But exactly as we've been talking about, those are flaws that maybe professionals might see, or professors, or experts, or whatever. But you know, it's subjective. And then the opposite side is if we never see our flaws and we just think everything's great, that can lead to being very arrogant and prideful and self-righteous, which is also wrong. So it's like striking that balance of being patient with yourself and knowing that you're going to make mistakes, and also realizing like most of the people are not going to see the things that you're trying to work on. So yeah, so
Yeah,
thank you,
that you're
Matt.
not happy with for sure. Yeah, thank you, Matt.
Awesome. So I know you talked a little bit about when you're teaching and your goals for your students. So what is your approach to teaching? So like when you're thinking about, okay, we've got an 8-week course, or I've got a class coming up or whatever, like what do you kind of process through in your head? Like how am I going to teach this class or this course? What are some things that you kind of prepare for in your mind?
I definitely prepare for everyone is different and learns at their own pace. And I like to have a structured um, what's the word, like schedule a little bit, but also I like to veer off from it because I think that if you don't enjoy what you're painting or what you're working on, then you're not going to have a good time. So if you're not interested in flowers, I'm like, I don't want to do flowers with you. I want to do what you're interested in. So I think individuality is probably the best word for that. It's a
Nice. Yeah.
big
No,
focus
that's
of
awesome.
mine.
Yeah, I think that's one of the art of teaching is being able to kind of read your students, or as they say, read the room a little bit, and just kind of know each student is at a different place, and sometimes you have to adjust for individuals and kind of see where they're at. And like you said, I wrestle with that as well, as far as like when you have a student who is not really into what you're working on. Um, that yeah, I personally wrestle with that because I'm like exactly what you said. If they're not interested in what we're doing, um, they're not probably not going to learn as well, and they're not going to be engaged. But then
Oh
there's the
yeah.
other side. What's that? I'm sorry.
I just said, oh yeah, just
Oh
agree.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, but then there's the other side that sometimes you have to kind of work on things you don't want to work on too. Like there's fundamentals that you have to know. So like I can imagine with, watercolor or oil or paint or whatever, if you're dealing with color, there is a sense in which you have to have a little bit of training in color theory so you know which colors to use and that kind of thing. And sometimes that can be a little bit laborious or boring or whatever. But
Hmm.
your job as a teacher is to then figure out, okay, then how do I make this interesting and at the same time not overwhelm them with these theories. So it's always like a delicate balance, and I've found that too with students that come into a drawing class, and for example, if they all they really love to draw is anime or manga or comic books, which is great, but they're coming into a drawing one-on-one class that they're coming in to learn how to shade and anatomy and perspective, all of things which are helpful when you draw anime and comic books and that kind of thing. But if they've come in with the expectation, oh, I just want to draw anime, that class might not be as interesting and fun as they had hoped. But that's my challenge as a teacher. How do I bridge that gap between the anime and the realistic drawing and still keep them engaged and yet still help them learn some of the fundamentals? So yeah, that's always a challenge as a teacher for sure. All right. So how's your painting now? What are you working on here as we've been chatting?
Just kind of still shaping it out. It's I like oils. I'm not usually. I mean, I kind of know what I'm doing, but I'm mostly just having fun with oils, just getting the
Nice,
darks
nice.
in, getting the shape out more, figuring out where my shadows are.
That is great. So what I'm doing right now is just kind of, so I have before I approach a page, I have, which I've shown these before, but I have these little thumbnails. So I do thumbnail of the whole book, and then I'll go back and I'll refer to the specific page. So right now I'm on this page 10 here. And so you can see the top part is this open scene, and then there's a bottom panel there. And it's really kind of sketchy, just trying to figure out where everything's going to go. So now when I approach the large page, it looks like a lot of scratch marks, which it is. But first, I'm just kind of putting in a gesture drawing of the figures. And then I'm putting in some lines, and these are compositional lines because they're standing in the middle of wreckage. So it's just going to be a lot of loose, random pieces of like metal and machinery and that kind of thing. So there's not like it's not like I'm drawing a building and it has to be a certain way. This is a lot of just randomness. So in order to create some order in the midst of the chaos, I'm just doing these little lines here because I want the elements to be arranged in such a way that your eye goes to a specific focal point. And so I'm trying to use these lines as kind of like impromptu leading lines. And so I'm going to incorporate that into kind of this wreckage. So even though these are just like sketchy lines, they'll turn into like a piece of metal or a piece of wire or whatever. And that will help guide the eye. And so I'm not really focusing a whole lot on anatomy and that kind of thing right now. I am kind of filling in the figures just a little bit. um, the figure part is the hardest part for me, even though I really love drawing figures and I feel pretty confident with figures. Since I'm not using reference, it requires a lot of brain power to just kind of remember how the anatomy looks and making sure it's correct. I'm so jealous of there are so many comic book like professional artists that can just whip out a figure and it looks so beautiful so quickly. I'm not that person. I struggle with getting the figure exactly how it needs to be, and I draw and redraw and draw and redraw. So right now I'm just working mainly on composition to make sure everything's clear and where I want everything, and then I'll start going back in and working on more details. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So
That's really
so
awesome. How long have you been doing, creating your own comic books?
so probably since, if I think back, definitely back to middle school and high school, which was a long time ago because I'm an old man. So uh, I graduated high school in 1994, and so yeah, back in the early 90s is when I really started to get into comic books. That's also when, if you know anything about the comic book industry, it was in the 90s that Image Comics and like all the big artists like Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane and Mark Silvestri, all these guys
Yeah.
really became big. Rob Liefeld, those guys. And that's when I really started getting into comic books because they had this amazing, like, a new approach to drawing comics. It was very realistic, but at the same time, very exaggerated, dynamic. Their layouts were so different. So that's when I really started getting into it. So during that time, I had a small group of characters called the Silent Knights with a K. And that eventually turned into what I have now, which is called the Silence. And part of that reason is because when I was making it in high school, obviously I'm a young kid. I don't have very much experience with life, so it wasn't a very deep and philosophical book. It was just basically these superheroes, and I would just, make up these stories of their origin story. Like the one I can still remember is I had this character called Railrun, and Railrun had the ability to use electricity to surf the subway system. And the
Oh,
way
that's
that
really
happened
cool. I love that.
yeah, the way that happened was he got basically hit by lightning. And so, not nothing like super it's your pretty basic, comic book kind of origin story. And so that's how it was back in college or in high school. And then when I got into college, my dad passed away, and that forced me to ask a lot of questions about life. I had kind of a quarter life crisis, and my life got more philosophical and religious. But either way, that changed the kind of trajectory of the story, and so it started getting a lot more philosophical. So it went from the Silent Nights to the Silence, and so then it turned into more of a sci-fi kind of philosophical story. So it has some of those same elements back from high school, but it's definitely changed over the years. But yeah, so I would do a lot like back in high school. I would do a lot of like pinups or like just character drawings. I didn't do a lot of sequential art. And so when I got into college, I started doing a little bit of that. And then once I got out of college, I really tried to focus on doing stories and working on sequentials because sequential is the hardest part about it. And most young artists avoid sequential art, which is basically the pages, like going from page to page to page. Part of the reason for that is because it's hard to draw. And so, especially if you have a character over several pages, different panels, different viewpoints, making that character look the same is incredibly difficult. And most people don't realize that, how difficult it is to draw a made up character, facial expressions and all that from different angles. Yeah, it's very difficult. So most young artists will avoid that and they'll just do pinups and they'll do splash pages and all that. Not that that's easy either, but it's easier than doing sequential art. So yeah, so I spent a lot of time
Yeah.
just working through sequentials because when you do sequential, you're also thinking almost like a movie director because you're thinking of camera angles, you're thinking about storytelling, you're also thinking of composition, but you don't have the advantage of a real scene. So you can't like set up a camera and look at different angles. It's all coming out of your head. And so in order to do sequentials, you have to have a really good grasp of perspective and anatomy and proportion and composition. All those things come together when you do that. So yeah, long story. So we have a running joke, Seth and I, that when we do this, we always give the long answer. So that was my long answer to your question. So
Well, I appreciate it. So yeah, your own origin story.
yeah, thank you, thank you. So I saw on your bio on the Voss, our Voss page, that you are a self-taught artist. So tell me a little bit about how that's been as a self-taught artist. How did you first get into drawing and painting, and what's that journey been like as you've pursued teaching yourself how to create?
Yeah, I just always loved drawing and coloring and painting as a child. It was something that came pretty naturally to me. I struggled very badly with dyslexia, and and if anyone who has dyslexia knows that is something that can really kind of affect your confidence. And so drawing was such a great outlet for me, and I didn't know I was good at it at all until one day my dad had his I called him my uncle. I think it was his cousin. My dad had a lot of family. And he's an artist, and he has been, I mean, he's been a professional artist for most of my life now. And he came over for dinner, and I was drawing, and he was like, wow, uh, you actually are very good at that. And he said, I'm going to keep my hands still the whole time I eat dinner. And he's like, I want you to draw my hand while we sit here and talk. I'm gonna keep it still. And I sat there and I drew his hand, and that was the first time I ever did like a live, you know, life drawing like that.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like a little turning point there. I did do some classes with him because he had his own studio in his home. He professional oil painter, has beautiful paintings. His name's Ben Reynolds. Um, so I did some classes with him, and then uh, lots of self learning, books, the internet, art communities. I've been a part of the Louisville art community as long as I can remember, and just also just getting art friends together and teaching each other what we know. I started teaching children um, art when I was around probably 18 or 19 years old at a studio, and then I just never stopped. I just never stopped.
That is awesome. What do you think are some of the best maybe tools or classes or advice that you have gotten along the way in learning how to kind of teach yourself art?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to think on that one for a minute.
Well, that's what I do. I ask profound questions. So, well, you think about that. And as you're thinking about that, I can maybe share a little bit from my experience as well. So, I did go to school for art, but, and I've shared a little bit about this before, I was not ready emotionally or just mature wise for college. So if I had to do my life over, I probably would have. I don't know that I would say that I would have taken some time off before going to college because I remember at the time the people that did that ended up not going to college. Like they always had these great plans of being like, oh yeah, I'm going to take a couple years off and then I'll go back to college and then never go. And so that was always the
Hmm.
warning. Like if you take too much time off, you're not going to go. And so it was just kind of like, okay. And it was one of those assumed things. Like you just go to college, you finish high school and you go to college. And I kind of like now I don't know if that's really the route you need to go. I don't know. There's
I
a
felt
lot.
that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I felt that way, and I watched the older friends of mine, go to college for art and graduate, and unfortunately not work in what they got, their college degree in, and
yep.
uh, and that was something that I was not sure I wanted to. I didn't know if I wanted to go that route. Um,
Yep.
I think that's another reason that pushed me to just continue being self-taught and getting into local studios and communities.
Yeah, and there's, so many stories of artists that have made it. In fact, I once again saw in your little bio page that some of your favorite artists are self-taught artists, like Max Ernst, who I have a deep appreciation for Max Ernst because I love his collage work. He also did a comic book style graphic novel of different, and it was basically, it wasn't necessarily a sequential story, but it was like lots of splash pages of like collages that told kind of a story, and I always love that. I
Yeah.
have a copy of it. It's down in my basement, but like, yeah, so I love his collage work. And then you also mentioned Frida Kahlo, who has some beautiful
Hmm.
paintings. And then, of course, Basquiat, who I absolutely love. I at first did not like his work when I first encountered it, but the more I studied it and looked at it, I was like, man, this stuff is profound. And
Oh, it's
I,
really wonderful. And I just got to see some in person when I went to New York in August, and it was just a really amazing experience. This someone that I read about. I mean, same with Frida Kahlo, and just to get to actually see their work in person was so cool. I mean, just really made me love them
yes,
even more.
yeah, yeah. I tried to go see his work. There were several years ago that I had an opportunity to go to New York City, and I saw online that there was a gallery that was showing his work, and stupid me, not knowing anything about how the world works sometimes, didn't realize that you had to buy tickets up front beforehand, and that a show like that sells out like so fast.
Oh
And
no,
so we just,
yeah.
yeah, so we just rolled up to the art gallery. I'm thinking, oh, this is gonna be awesome. I get to the front, get to the line. They're like, do you have a ticket? I'm like, no, I'm here to buy the ticket so I can get in. They're like, no, this has been sold out for months. I'm like, oh gosh, I had
Oh,
no idea.
how
So
devastating.
yeah, so I didn't get a chance to see it in person, but maybe someday I'll have a chance to see some of his work. But I did, however, on that same trip, we were able to stop in Philadelphia on the way home and went to the Philadelphia Museum of Art. And there is a whole wing or a couple rooms dedicated to Marcel Duchamp, who's one of my favorite artists. So that was a consolation prize, is that I got to see his work in person. So that was nice. So,
That is awesome.
so what is there anything specific about those artists that really help you and encourage you as a self-taught artist, knowing that here's these great masters of art and they taught themselves? Like, how does that really help you as an artist?
Oh, it definitely helps my just like feeling more confident in myself. It makes me feel I don't know, almost close to them in a way too.
Yep.
Um, and then like Frida Kahlo is especially inspiring to me because she lived with, chronic illness and chronic pain and
Hmm.
limited mobility, which is something that I deal with. I have a spine disease, and so just like that, I love watching documentaries on her because that just also just pushes me more. Like it's another thing that I feel like I relate with her with is just like pushing through pain to continue doing something you love because it's not easy to sit still or stand up for very long periods of time and just having to find different ways to be comfortable to make art too, and which is that's just kind of like a personal thing for me that I just feel relatable with her.
Yeah, 100%.
um
I feel the same way as far as like having that connection with artists, especially artists like that didn't have the formal education. Not that like I did have the education, but the way that the one artists I always connect with are the ones that during their life were never really truly discovered. And you see
yes.
them like working at their craft and producing all these paintings and drawings and everything. And it wasn't until like they were long gone that all of a sudden they got discovered and all that. It's one of those that I'm like, man, that you kind of have that feeling sometimes because you're just like, I don't know, you just kind of work and do your work, and you like in my situation, I'm like, I teach class, which is amazing. I work at, the Visual Arts Academy, it's awesome. I get to do all this drawing, it's awesome. But like I know of people personally who have quote unquote made it as far as they do like gallery shows in New York City and around the world and everything. You just think, man, what a life to do that kind of thing. That's like what you hear about in, when you're thinking about these famous artists and everything. But it's always nice to know that there are also just as many artists that were never discovered, and they just kept working
Oh
at it
yeah.
because they love the art. And that helps me a lot, is to know that you do this for the love of the art, not so much for the gain that you're gonna get. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I often joke. I mean, when I'll be working on a painting and I'll just be like, yeah, people are gonna love this when I'm dead. Can't wait. They're gonna just
Yeah.
love this 100 years from now.
So Matt has a question for you, Sarah. He says, Sarah, have you found being a self-taught artist harder to get into galleries and competitions and just getting established as a professional artist in the art world? What do you think?
I think a little bit. I think like I don't know. I think there is a little bit of that. And it's intimidating. I don't know if it's mentally for me, if what I'm feeling is real life, but there is the moments where you feel like you go, if you do get into a studio, you're the only one that's self-taught, so it feels intimidating. I've never been told that's why I wasn't hired or accepted into something. But it's a thought I have for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it probably also is one of the reasons why it pushes me to kind of join smaller, interesting festivals too, and some of my other personal art is kind of weird niche things as well. So, um, currently trying to get into the Louisville Unfair is something that we do here. That it's basically just like a lot of artists that make weird stuff or surrealism stuff, or it started because of people not being artists, not being accepted into some of the bigger fairs and shows here, uh, under the assumption that their art's not going to be bought because it is odd or weird or dark or creepy, something along those lines. So I think I like to be with the underdogs. I guess it's like I like to get into those festivals. So it's never been a problem with festivals like that, and shows like that uh, where it's more celebrated.
Yeah, it just goes to show you too that that's one of the beauties of the art world is that there is a place for everyone. It's just trying to find that place, and so you might be thinking, why, I want to get in these big art galleries and that, everything like that. But the hard truth might be that might not be your place. That might not be your lane. There might be another lane that's for you. So you just have to keep trying and keep working at it, and eventually you'll find your people, I guess you could say in that way. So. But yeah, great question, Matt. I appreciate that. So awesome. So Sarah, what kind of personal goals for your art do you have when you think over the long term? What are some things that you hope to accomplish with your art?
I know my biggest one is to just make more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's my biggest goal, is to just keep making more art. I've had, the past few years of my life being very, very busy with children, and um, I also had one of those quarter uh quarter life crisis, as you said, because my father also passed away when I was about 24 years old, and that was something that really made me think and get more serious about creating art and a, viewing it as a way of leaving my mark on the world, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, skill wise, I I would love to push myself more with perspective, and probably figure drawing. I mean, I always have to use a reference. I don't think I'll ever. Um, it would be hard to achieve getting to the point where I don't need a reference for figure drawings or anything like that. But I definitely getting better with figures and people, and being more weird,
Yeah.
making more weird stuff. That's a big one.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. And yeah, I would definitely encourage you to embrace that. That's like your voice. So we've Seth and I have talked about that before, about just finding your voice, and how you personally communicate, I think is very, very important. So that's awesome. Well, good. So we are an hour in, which has gone by very fast. So I'm pretty excited about that, and we're having great conversation. So I appreciate it, Sarah. All your answers have been really awesome and given us good insight into who you are. And yeah, I really like that. That's awesome. So as
Thanks.
my
It's been great
voice,
questions.
hey, thank you. I've got plenty more. So we've got plenty to talk about. So um, let's see. Let me ask you this. Do you want a practical question or a more philosophical question? How about that?
Man, I'm a quarter flip type of person. I'm so bad at making decisions.
All right.
Let's go with the second one. Let's go with the more what'd you say?
More
Philosophies
philosophical.
type,
Yep, philosophical.
philosophical. There we go.
All right. Why do you think art is important?
Man, it's such a creative outlet. It's therapy. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning of our session here is making people feel, making people understand, or not making, but getting them a chance to look at something through the eyes of someone else or learn
Yep.
about their perspective. Um, I view art kind of the way I feel people would view diaries. It's almost like
Mm.
reading someone's diary, seeing their art and seeing who they are. I think it's a very special thing.
Yeah. That is that's great. I love what you're saying about making people kind of, maybe not making them, but encouraging people to
Right.
understand from where other people are coming from. It's kind of like art teaches empathy in that sense, like or helps you to sympathize with where other people are coming from. And that's the beautiful thing about art in the sense of when you go into an art gallery, you have art, hopefully, if it's a good art gallery, represented from all different kinds of culture and people and backgrounds and that kind of thing. So you get to experience life from someone else's point of view. I think that's very important and very helpful. Um, yeah, especially, our world right now is a little crazy. So I think it's always good to kind of understand where other people are coming from. And I think art really helps us do that. So yeah, I agree. I agree. I also think, yeah, with art, if I were to answer that question, I definitely agree with that. I think it's important because it's the one thing I feel like that makes us unique as humans in the sense of like, certainly, and this goes into a larger question as far as, how do you define what art is? Because when you say, well, it's unique to humans, you could say, well, when a bird creates a nest, that's like art, or
Yeah.
when a beaver creates a dam, or or
Or the fish under the ocean that like move the rocks around.
yeah, yeah, or like the bees when they
Absolutely.
create their honeycombs and things like that. So definitely there's something there. Yeah. So I mean that just, once again, it gets into your question, or it gets into answering the question like, what is art? Like how can you distinguish between art and instinct and creativity and those kind of things? And everyone has a different opinion on that because when I look at, for example, a bird's nest, I would argue that that's more instinct than art. Whereas when a person paints something, that's saying something a little bit different. You're communicating something personal, but that's just my opinion, and other people have different opinions about that. So that's why I always love these kind of discussions because everyone brings a little something different to the table, which is always interesting. So. Well, good. You handled the philosophical one very well. You did that with good calm and resolve. I love it. So good job. Yeah.
Thank you.
So as you're working on that piece, how do you know when your piece is finished? How do you know when that's going to
That's
be
so
done?
funny.
Why?
I have it. It's so because I have a snail drawing that I have been working on for like a ridiculous amount of time,
Yeah.
and since it's colored pencil, I often carry it around with me sometimes. Like I'll go if we're gonna go out to the beer garden or something, I'll take it and sit at the table with friends. And my same friend has seen me work on it like 3 times, and she was just asking. She said, when do you know it's done? Like, when do you
Yeah.
decide it's done? She's like, because I would have said it was done the past 5 times I saw it.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you said, because that's a conversation we just had. And
Oh, that's
um,
great. Yeah.
that's a really big challenge for me. is knowing when I'm done.
Yep.
I don't. I'm very feeling based artist. Uh,
Yep.
to the point where it's just I can't even really pinpoint an answer for myself. It's like I guess it's just when I decide it's done, when I feel it's done, when I decide to let go.
Yep.
Um, maybe it's when it's my own personal art, it is much more difficult. When it's a commission, it's not as hard for me. I can pretty easily find a finishing point. Um,
Yep.
yeah, no, but with my own personal art, I mean, sometimes I guess, I guess it's finished right before I work it to death.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. When it's a commission piece, it's a little bit easier, I think, to excuse me, identify when it's done because you've agreed on with the person what they want. And so
Mhm.
once you've accomplished that, then yeah, it's done. Here you go, and whatever. But
You
like
also
when
have a
it's
time limit that pushes you too.
yes, exactly.
Sometimes I don't. I usually do.
Yes. Yeah, and typically with like a commission piece, someone is going to be very specific as far as they're going to say, I want you to do a portrait of, my dog or my wife or whatever. And and you'll create some sketches and say, well, do you like this or do you like that or what kind of position you want them in, what kind of lighting, background, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of that stuff is decided up front. Whereas, if you're doing something for yourself, a lot of times, those kind of questions are not answered yet until you get into a piece, or you're still trying to, figure it out, doing tons of sketches and you can't quite get it, and so you just start, and then you just kind of, well, I guess, especially like if it's a more abstract piece, sometimes that's a very elusive question, and
Hmm.
I've seen some abstract expressionist painters work, and you're just looking at it and you're thinking, they'll do something, they'll splatter paint or they'll smudge here and there, and then all of a sudden they'll just take a squeegee and just like cancel all that out. And I'm like, well, what's going on here? Like you just did all that work, now that's gone. Now you're doing this. And it's like, how do you know when all that's gonna come together? But for me, when it's exactly what you said. If I get to a point where I realize if I touch this anymore, it's gonna start, I'm not gonna be improving it, it's gonna start getting worse, and so I know at that point, okay, I just need to stop. And it's it's a hard moment. It's a very elusive moment. There's not really a like, here it is. It's just kind of like, yeah, I feel like I keep touching this and it's not doing what I want, so I just need to stop touching it. And sometimes it's just you stop touching it, you walk away from it, and then you come back and you're like, oh, I could work on it some more. Kind of like your what'd you say it was, a snail drawing or colored pencil drawing that you carried
Yeah,
around?
colored pencil snail.
Yeah. And so, you have those pieces, and then you have other ones where you're just like, yeah, I keep touching this and it's just getting worse. So I'm just gonna stop and call it a day. So yeah. But let's see here. What are some things that motivate you to create? What are some, maybe there's subject matter, maybe it's a mood or emotion, maybe it's a memory or whatnot. But what are some things that motivate you to create?
Seeing art, going to museums, um, going to local art shows, being in local art festivals. Those definitely. I always come back wanting to make more art after seeing other people's art. Is very inspiring.
Yep. Yeah, that's
Uh,
great.
and then nature for sure. I love nature. Obviously, I've mentioned snails once already, but I mean, sometimes I'll go outside in the morning and see a snail. I'm like, I need to go paint.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, this might be one of those questions where your mind will go blank as soon as I ask it, because this happens to me all the time. But is there an artist or a work of art or painting or anything that you've seen before or recently that you can remember that you were just like, as soon as you saw it, I was like, I need to go. I need to go draw. As soon as I get home, I need to work on something. Is there anything like that you can think of?
Oh yeah, there is an artist that I struggle to pronounce his name all the time. It's let me see. I think it's he. I think the last name's Bosch. It's
Oh
a
yeah, Hieronymus Bosch. Yeah,
Hieronymus. Hieronymus. I
yeah,
was gonna say Hiroshima.
yeah.
Hieronymus Bosch. Um, I love that, especially seeing surrealism. It immediately makes me want to paint and make art. I love surrealism. Um, I like discovered this. I think it was on Reddit. It was a subreddit a long time ago called Birds by Scale, and you would
Mm,
look at these paintings, and it would look, just something normal. It might be a big, maybe a turtle, but then all of a sudden you notice the birds in the sky, and you realize that turtle or tortoise is like massive because those
mm.
birds are tiny. So like that perspective, and those types of surrealism works like that. They that always get like the creative juices flowing, and
Yeah.
uh, for sure.
That's amazing. If money was no object and you could buy any piece of artwork, would it be something from Hieronymus Bosch, or would it be one of your favorites like Max Ernst or Frida Kahlo or something like that?
Oh man, it would be awesome to have Max Ernst for sure.
Yeah.
Um, even Francis Bacon. Just
Oh man.
I
Yeah.
don't. I'm so just fascinated by Francis Bacon and how just I don't know, such a odd human being and
Yeah.
rough life and angry human he was.
Yeah.
But his art is very interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a tough one. There's so many that I would love to have.
Yeah. His when you're talking about Francis Bacon, yeah, for the same with me, like he is one of the most fascinating artists to me in the sense it's like I don't like horror films, and his life seems like a horror film. I don't mean that in a bad way,
Yes.
but like
Oh, it was awful.
yeah, like a horror film is one of those things where it's like you want to look but you don't want to look at the same time because you're going to get jump scared and you hate that part about it. Or for me, my imagination runs too much, so I like that's why I don't like scary movies because the problem for me is afterwards because my mind just thinks
Yes.
about like, oh, all the scenarios and what if it's real, that kind of thing. And Francis Bacon work is like that, where I look at it and it's so fascinating, but then at the same time, it's like so dark and terrifying. Like I've never seen anything like it. Like when I look at his art, and you sit there and you think, art is generated from obviously from within a person. I mean, I know that's a statement of the obvious, but like
Yeah. Their
that's coming,
emotions and their
yeah,
experiences.
like what you're seeing on the canvas, that's coming from inside him. And you're like, what is going on in that man's brain or soul or heart or however you want to say it that produces that? Like, yeah, you just,
I think it's the empathetic nature of me that makes me like that art
yeah,
and him and artists that struggle. It's like I want to like I just want to be like, hey, I'm here, you're important. It's like when you see someone going through something like that, I don't know, it's just I don't know exactly how to explain it. It's just like, oh,
yeah,
you feel like, do you need a hug?
yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a couple of his that I don't know. There's not
It's
much
also
more to
a
say.
reminder of that, like life has been hard for every human for all of human existence. Like we we all struggle. Like I think that's another thing that art can really help you relate. You know, it makes you feel like you're
Yeah.
not alone. I think a lot of people can get lost in that, like, you know, life is so hard for them, and it's like you're not alone. Life is hard for everyone. It's just what flavor of hard do you have? What
Yeah. Or and there's just tends to be, I think, in our society, just kind of an unrealistic expectation that you shouldn't suffer, you shouldn't struggle, and that if you are struggling, there's something wrong that can be fixed. But the reality is that sometimes in life, like, you hate to be this dark, but sometimes there isn't an answer. Like, there isn't an explanation, there isn't a fix. Sometimes life is just really hard, and to
Yep.
see someone express, like, to have that kind of art gives you that same empathy. Like, you're like, we're in this human struggle together, and yeah, yeah, that's really good. It's really helpful. Yeah. All right. So how have classes been going? That what are we in week? What are we in? Week 4 of
Don't
this
ask
round?
me. I have to look at a calendar every time.
I know.
I
I
I
I think we're in week 4. I could be wrong. I think we're about halfway through this round.
I think
Is
you're
there any?
correct. I think it's 4 or 5 for sure.
Yeah. Is there anything that has stood out about your classes this round, or just at Voss in general, that you're, yeah, just stood out, that noteworthy, something you're just really encouraging and motivating for you?
Yeah, definitely. I have a student currently who she's 8 years old and she's in a class with other 8-year-olds, and the other 8-year-olds have, they've worked on art for a long time, and she's, coming into the class with less experience, and it has worked out really well because I've got to give her a little bit extra guidance, and it goes back to that watching my students gain confidence, and to see her come in from the first week to now, like, it's just awesome. It's really great, just helping her. She wanted to draw her own stuff out, and I, really worked with her on learning how to sketch and draw your own stuff by hand. And uh, I mean, it was just she just like totally blossomed and came in the next class just super excited, really energetic, very confident in herself. I don't think once in the class I heard her say, uh, I'm not very good at this. And so that was a really lovely moment that, I reflected on later, just just knowing that I am able to help people and be this person that, is guiding them and helping
Yeah.
them find, themselves. And so that's been great. Um, I mean, I have all this semester, every single class I have is really, it's wonderful, really wonderful.
That's amazing. Yeah. I've got I've got a young boy in my in one class. We're actually doing a one-on-one for drawing, and I had that class today, and he's just fun to be around, and he's got such an awesome little personality, and he likes to collect and take care of ant farms. And
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah, so I every week he comes in, I always ask him about his ant farms, and he tells me about, like, he went hunting for a queen ant, and he was telling me this last week. He went outside just to look for queen ants, and he found one. And he said they're very, very difficult to find because they don't come out. And so he found one that was out, and so he snatched her up and made a little ant farm out of her, and now has some. She laid some eggs, and now he has some a little colony starting to form, and yeah, so it's just so fun to hear him talk about, like, he's learned so much about ants, like how they forage for food and how they defend themselves and what happens when they die and all this kind of stuff is really interesting. And then on top of that, to see him draw, he's very talented. He's very young, but he does an awesome job. And
Has he
yeah,
drawn
some
any ants yet?
no, he has not. He has drawn the ant farms for me because I was asking him like, how do you keep an ant farm? Well, like, what does that look like? Because all I have envisioned is that those kits that you can buy on Amazon where you it's just two planes of glass and you can see their little trails and all that in the dirt. But no, he was describing you start with you put the queen in a test tube and you put a
Hmm.
little bit of sugar water in there or like a damp cotton ball at the end so they have something to eat. And then once she lays some eggs, then you expand it into like a two compartment kind of contraption where she has her area and then there's a foraging area and the other ants go. And yeah, he had this whole thing. It was so awesome. So he drew that out for
I
me.
think
But
I think this kid must watch the same YouTube videos my kids watch.
oh yeah,
My kids
probably
have been
yeah.
watching this. Yeah, they've been watching this YouTuber that educates them on ant farms, and I'm like, I'm all for it. I'm like a bug mom for sure. Like, let's have
That's
ants
amazing.
as pets.
That's so awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's pretty
That's
good.
really cool.
All right. So I'm getting to that point in mine where I'm starting to kind of scratch in some, I don't know, some just weird details. I don't know what I'm doing at this point. Just adding in it's wreckage. So there's not really a method to it. It's just the only thing I really have to show is kind of a door that will be lifted up and just kind of got to make up the rest of it. Lots of little debris, and then I need to go in and start working on these figures, which is the hardest part. I usually leave. I don't know. I don't want to say till last because I've been kind of adding little details as I go. But yeah. So yeah. What is for you? What is your least favorite or hardest thing to draw or paint?
I've done a lot of pet portraits, so I'm gonna have to say solid black animals, whether it's cats or black labs. Gosh, like Christmas time, I think it was probably around 2019 or 2020. I I did like four black
Oh
like
yeah.
Labradors, and that is just I'm just not a fan. They turned out
Yeah.
good. They all, everyone who the homes they went to loved them. But it's not my favorite. That's for
Yeah.
sure. I'll do it
Yeah.
again, but it's not my favorite.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And then probably people. I get frustrated with people. I do what most people do. I want to be like fantastic at it the first time,
Yeah.
uh and I just need to practice people more.
Yep.
So what about you? Do you have a least favorite?
Um, I've kind of shared this before. Probably anything that is commissioned. I cannot. I have a hard time with commissions. I think what it is with commission is that, you know, I just have really struggled with that. I try to like convince myself that, this is going to be a good thing for the person. They're paying me money for it, which is awesome. Whatever. But anytime I get in a commission, I'll start a commission. I'll be like, okay, this is going to be great. And I'll have all this energy. And then I'll start it. And I'm like, I do not want to do this. And it's always because I'm thinking about if I'm doing this, I can't work on the stuff I want to work on. And
Yep.
money for me is not really a good motivation. Like And I don't think a lot of people understand that are not artists. They, and some artists love the money, but I don't really care for that. But
Yeah.
so like someone will always be like, "Hey, I really want you to draw something," and I'm like, "I really can't do it right now." And they're like, "But I'll pay you," and I'm like, "I don't care. You can
That's
pay me whatever."
that's great.
Um, yeah, awesome. You can pay me. Well, that's not a good motivation. So I think for me, as a generic kind of answer, just commission work is really hard for me. I've tried it so many times, and I always tell my wife, I'm always like, if I start getting into commission work and I think, hey, this is going to be a good income, blah blah blah, please stop me, because I always convince myself. And at one point, I even started an LLC, and I tried to like get business, and I got some projects and everything, and I just hated it, every moment of it. So I ended up having to shut down my LLC and just go back to being the starving artist, in the sense of like having a regular job to pay my bills, so then I can draw whatever I want, whenever I want, with no deadlines. I just love that freedom. Of course,
Yeah.
it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost in the sense that, most of the time you get discovered because you're doing commissions and you're doing projects for people. And but even that for me, as I've gotten older, has been less and less of a motive. So, but as far as
Do
like
you ever
go ahead.
do you ever have people ask for commissions that are just completely out of your style?
Oh, 100%. And I tell them that all the time. And it's usually in the form of like, hey, I want you to draw me a tattoo, or I want you to draw me a logo, or I want you to draw me a trademark, or yeah, a thing for my business, or I want you to draw me a business card, or any of that. And I try to explain to them using a different analogy. I usually say, like, my wife went to school, her undergrad is in singing, in vocal performance. I said, but when you sing, there's different kinds of singing, right? There's opera singers, there's pop singers, there's um, jazz singers. There's all different kinds of singers. You're not gonna
Yodeling?
go, what's that? Mumbling? Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yodeling.
oh, yodeling. Sorry. Yeah, yodeling. I'm more of the mumble school of singing, where I just sing under my breath or in the shower. But yeah, so you're not gonna go to like a pop singer and ask them to sing opera. Like, they could probably pull it off, like, but not like at the level that you need it to be. You need to go to an opera singer. And so I try to explain, like, if you want a logo, you need to go to someone that studies logos and has drawn logos their whole life. Like, certainly I could make you a logo, I could kind of put something together, but A, I don't want to do that. That's why I don't draw logos. And B, I'm not going to be as good as someone else that actually does logos. You need to find that person. And so, yeah, that happens all the time, where people are like, "Yeah, can you just make this for me?" and blah blah blah. And I'm like, "No, I can't. I'm not what you think I am." Just because you see, like, that actually happened recently. Someone came by the school and saw my pencil drawings, and they wanted me to do a technical drawing of an invention they made. And I appreciate the offer, and I always tell people, I'm like, it's a huge compliment when you want me to draw something for you, because you're saying to me that you value what I do. And I love that, and I appreciate that. And I always try to be very kind and just say, like, I'm not taking commissions, or I part of it is I don't have the time because I have other things I'm doing. I'm trying to I teach class, and I'm working on my own projects. Or I'll say, like, what you're looking for is not what I do. So, like, you want a technical artist, you need to find someone that does that, which is very difficult. But just because someone can draw doesn't mean they can draw what you want them to draw, or, paint, or whatever it is. So, yeah, so I've run into that several times. And anytime I've ever, and I haven't taken very many of these commissions, but anytime I've ever taken that commission, it's never gone well, in the sense that, they get what they want, but it's like a million revisions, because it's like, I'm not, I'm not that kind of artist. So, like, you're asking me to fix this because I'm not doing what you want, and what you want someone else can do. If you ask me to do a portrait,
Right.
100% I could do a portrait. But if you go to a logo artist, they're not going to be able to do a portrait. So you don't want to go to them for that. So I'm trying to find that balance. Like, I've talked about in this live stream, and I've talked with you all before. Like, I really love working in charcoal, and I'm a lot quicker with charcoal, and so I've flirted around in my mind, like maybe I could do some commissions in charcoal because I can get them done pretty fast. But I'm still hesitant to put that out there and say, "Hey, I'm taking commissions," because yeah, I don't know. So
Yeah, I took a long break from commissions just because so much of it was not in my style. To the point where I kind of, I don't know, I mean, for lack of better words, kind of had a bad attitude about
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I somewhat take it personally when
hmm
I'm asked something, they want a commission and it's just absolutely nothing like what it's like, yes, I can paint it. I can do that, or someone wants something that's very similar to another piece of art, but can you just change this around a little bit? And it's
yes,
like, no, absolutely not.
yes. Yeah, you get that a lot where people exactly what you said. They say, "Can you draw me something in this style of this artist?" I was like, "No, go ask that artist." Like, what? Like, I have my own style. Do
Or
you not
something with
appreciate?
lettering and fonts, like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, no.
yeah, yeah. So, you always want to be, like I said before, you always want to be like thankful and gracious because it is a compliment. They see value
Yep.
in what you do. And so I try to be very nice, but at the same time, I try to help people understand that. And most people that don't like draw or not artists or whatever, they don't understand. They don't understand like the process of art. They don't understand. They definitely don't understand pricing because they don't realize how long these things take and how costly it is to do some things. Like certainly a charcoal drawing. All I need is a piece of charcoal and a piece of paper. That's not very expensive. However, it takes hours upon hours upon hours to do this. And if you really were charged the per hour rate, you would never commission anyone to do anything because how can you pay someone for 100 hours of work? And if that artist is worth their salt, they're gonna charge you 70, 80, $100 an hour. So like you're not going to be able to afford a stinking $10,000 piece, unless you're a millionaire. So
Hmm.
it's like yeah. Um
There's such
yeah.
a fine line between, charging what you feel you're worth, and also, like, for me, I want art to be, um I want all types of people in different incomes to be able to afford art. So it's definitely like a balance with that,
Yeah.
figuring out price and stuff. And
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times if someone like something I did and they want to maybe buy it or ask me to do something, if I do a commission, sometimes I'll just ask them like, "What do you want to pay for it?" And then just go from there. And like,
yep.
or sometimes I'll just surprise them like, "Here, you can have it." Like, and people don't understand
Yeah.
that, but it's like I sit there and I think it's just sitting in my studio anyways. You really want it. It's not something I'm framed and put on my wall, then just take it. Like I'll make another one. It's not a big deal or whatever. Sometimes. I mean, I definitely have those pieces that I would never give away, but for the most part, it's just like here, you could just have it. It's not a big deal. But yeah. So do you ever struggle with creative block? And if so, what are some of the ways that you try to get through that?
I don't know if I would call mine. I mean, it's a block for sure. It's like creative indecision. I
Yeah.
have like 100 ideas going and trying to figure out which one I want to start or work on. Um, I don't know really if I have too many tips on that. Sometimes it's kind of like, I don't know. Sometimes it's kind of like going to gym. Like, hardest part is getting there. Sometimes you
Yep.
just have to just pick it, just do it, just pick the idea, work on it, and start. Once you start, it's easy. All the other ideas go, to the back of the brain. You might still think about it a little bit, but it's like, this is my main focus now. sometimes I work on a few different things at once just because it's easier that way. It's like I got
Yeah.
so many ideas that just kind of dabble around on this one, dabble around on that one.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't think there's ever really a time where I don't know what I want to paint
yeah.
or make. It's more so just about which one do I want to do first,
Yep.
and then not allow myself to just get stuck and not do it at all.
Yeah, that's a big reason why I like to have several pieces going at the same time. So if I ever get bored with one, I can kind of move on to a different one and work on that. I've got a drawing in my garage right now that I literally have not worked on in, I want to say like 8 or 9 months. But just because I'm working on other stuff too, but I know it's there. So if I ever get stuck on the other ones, I can just go work on that one, kind of snap myself out of
Yeah.
it. And because I think too, like the danger of creative block or artist block or whatever, however you want to say it, is that if you get in that rut of not creating, then it's like an even harder battle just to get started. But if you've got
Hmm.
a couple projects going, you can just work on one for a while. Maybe you don't have like some fresh idea, but you can work on something that's already kind of in the process, and that'll help a bit, I think. So
Hmm. Yeah, I love allowing myself to just put an art piece back, up on the wall and not pressure myself to finish it. I mean, I got some pieces that are years old, and I still will pull them down off the wall, work on them, put them back up on the wall.
yeah, yeah. I've got a bathroom renovation that's in the midst of that. I know that's not art, but yeah, we had an issue with our bathroom, and I had to redo a bunch of stuff, and I'm not very handy, so it was like every little thing I had to learn how to do, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's like hard to motivate yourself to, yeah, go do something I don't know how to do. I got to learn from scratch. All right, let's do this. Let's watch a couple YouTube videos and figure this thing out and make a bunch of mistakes. Spend a lot of money to fix
Right.
things on top of what you're already trying to fix. Uh, is there anything that stands out to you as far as things that you've learned either in teaching or in your own practice since you've been at Voss?
As I mean, as like my own personal art or skill, or as like as an instructor.
Just anything, maybe both, or maybe if there's one. If there's not, there's no pressure other than the fact that Seth is probably going to watch this later, so no pressure at all. But
I haven't learned anything, Seth. Oh no. I think honestly, it's like the best thing that's come from Voss for me is just an extra confidence boost. Getting out of I was out of teaching for a long time there, and just getting back into it, having a place to go that's not home as well. Having people that rely on me,
yeah,
it has pushed me to be a better artist. I mean, and I mean, it sounds silly, but also like just to be like a better person in general, and
hmm
yeah,
yeah, I don't think
definitely.
that's. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just, you know, I'm finding myself researching things that I've already, that I knew, and refreshing it up. So, it's just like just a, recharge. Getting back in here is kind of bringing new life into being an artist again.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I was gonna say something. My mind just went blank. It was you said something about maybe if the comment you were making was like silly or didn't, whatever. But I was like, no, that's not silly at all, or that's actually quite important when you said as far as the accountability to other people and how that that really helps you be a better person. And yeah, that's totally true. I mean, it's like when you've got other people that are relying on you, and some of that accountability kind of forces you to operate with excellence. And I think that's a really good thing. Yeah. So Matt asks a question. He said, actually, there's two questions. Do you go to the Thursday night sessions, the drawing sessions, Sarah?
I'm teaching a class during those sessions.
Okay.
I need to plug my phone in because it's going to die in the middle of this. So
Uh-oh.
one moment.
Okay, while you do that, I will answer Matt's question. I was doing Thursday nights, but I had to step away for this round just because I have commitments almost every single night of the week, and that took me away from my family too much. So unfortunately, I had to step away from Thursday night sessions for at least this round, and we'll see how we go into the future. I'd like to get back to doing it on Thursday nights. It's just my kids have commitments throughout the week, so I want to be there for them for that. So I have not been to Thursday nights for a little bit now, but I did enjoy it when I was doing it because it was really, really helpful. But Matt also asks, aside from the students, what are three things you love about working for Voss? So I will start while Sarah's fixing her phone. Are you good on your phone? Are you
I'm
okay? You're
not. I don't know why I'm not, but I'm not. I can hear
oh,
you all
okay.
though, and we're talking.
Okay, cool. So what are three things that you love working for Voss? So for me, I would say one thing, the first thing I think of obviously is the people that we work with. So I love hanging out with Seth. Sometimes I'll come in a little early, just
I did it.
I what's that?
I said I did it. My phone's not gonna die.
Okay, good, good, good. Yeah, sometimes I come in a little early to catch up with Seth if I've, not been there for a few days. And as we know, Seth likes to use a lot of words, so I like to give him a little bit of space to talk. And I give him a hard time about that, so he'll appreciate that. But no, I love working with Seth. I love working with Sarah and Thomas, and of course, Michelle and Zach behind the scenes, and Layla, of course, is doing amazing. And so, yeah, the people I work with is awesome. I think, just like Sarah says, mutually encouraging. There's a mutual accountability, and yeah, it's just fun to build something kind of I mean, not kind of, but from scratch, and be a part of that and see it grow. I think is really awesome. I love the teaching aspect of it. Obviously, I know you said aside from the students, but like for example, I've got a class where we do some one-on-one. It's almost like a mentor-mentee or apprentice type uh, setup when that happens, and I do love that because you get more focused attention on that artist, and you really get to build into them and see them grow and challenge them in specific ways. Whereas if you have a larger class, which is awesome, and I've had those too, and that brings its own kind of like, I don't know, blessings or however you want to say it. The one-on-one is really nice because you can really specify your instruction to that person. Whereas if you have a larger class, sometimes that can get lost because you have other people that you're kind of speaking into their practice as well. So yeah, definitely the people, definitely the mentor apprentice style teaching that we get to do. And then I think this live stream, I love doing this, getting a couple hours set aside to where I can draw and talk art and invite people on and have great conversation. I love that part about Voss too. And I know that's part of our larger vision is to see this live stream grow and be an essential part of what we do, and find some other artists to bring on and learn about their practice and their life. We look forward to that as well. So what about for you, Sarah? What are three things that you love about working for Voss?
You really hit the nail on the head when it comes to the people, like whether it's coworkers or the students. Like I'm such a community person, social butterfly. Um, I love talking almost as much as Seth does. I feel like
Yeah.
I could give him, I think I could give him a run for his money. I think he would probably say that. So that's been awesome. I mean, that's just been absolutely amazing, and getting to meet, um, just different people, different students, all ages, and working with people. I love that, you know, being self-taught, I get to come into the studio with other instructors that have, their education and they're all the knowledge. And I know that if I don't know something, I can go to you, Chad, or I can go to Seth, and I know that I will learn it. And also, that you all, if you don't know it, you all are very much like, we're going to learn it together. We'll
Yeah.
figure it out. Like, but it's great to know that I can just, I can keep learning. Um, Also, having a studio space, just it's just such it's a different step of being an artist. Like that feeling, it's like you just take that extra step of you have like a place that's not in your house that you can
Yep.
actually go to and set up and work. That is really cool. I really love
Yes.
that
Yeah, I do too.
for sure.
Yeah.
And then probably my third is our waiting room, our office, or our lounge. What do we call it?
Yeah, I guess the
The
lounge, yeah. Yeah, kind
library.
of yeah, kind of
I think
yeah, I think lounge is pretty much what it is. I mean, it's got couches and books and video games and all that stuff. Yeah, for sure.
I felt so at home the second I saw all the graphic novels and superheroes, and I'm wearing a Marvel shirt now. You just can't see it, and
Yeah.
that was really cool.
Yeah, I love that.
And
And
hearing,
go ahead.
just hearing, so I've heard so many of our students that have came in talk about how like they walk into Voss and it's like, one of my students, Liz, she put it so great. She's like, it's just you're walking into another dimension. You get to leave the real world behind, and you go through those doors, and you're just in a different world.
Oh, that's
And I love
awesome.
that people have that.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I love having a space to go as well. And yeah, and then with the lounge area that you were talking about, one of the dreams I know that Seth talked about is, getting to a point where you walk in and that place is just filled with students hanging out, even if they don't have a class or they're waiting for a class or whatever. And there's been several times where you walk in, you'll see parents, you'll see family members just hanging out, either looking at the books or playing the games, or maybe they're doing their own, business stuff they need to get done. But yeah, it's great, and it just shows the kind of community that we're trying to continue to foster and grow. And that is one of the amazing things about Voss for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, my little figures here are starting to come together. I'm feeling pretty happy with them. They still need a little work, but we're getting there. Let's see. All right, you're doing great, Sarah. This has been a great conversation. I've run through a lot of these questions. Let's see what else I got here. Uh, oh, here's one, and this is one that Seth and I have talked a little bit about. Do you ever wrestle with imposter syndrome? And if so, what are maybe some ways that you try to work through that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like on a regular basis it hits. We're all human. We all have feelings. We go through hormonal cycles, all of us, and some days you're just down on yourself. Um, I think a big thing I do is I limit how how much art I look at on social media.
Yeah.
Um, I think that, there's a perfect amount and everyone's amount is different. Mine is a small amount. I'll take in a little bit, but sometimes I come across these profiles and there's one specific that I'll look at it and I'm like, man, she's out going to Cincinnati doing these insane murals on the sides of the buildings and this and that, and I have to remind myself that um, I have a completely different life. I went down a completely
Yep.
different path, and my journey is not any less than anyone else's.
Yep.
And then also just giving myself a break too.
Yes.
If there's a day that I feel like I'm not good, I'm gonna stop beating myself up and just go do something, go for a walk, go watch a funny cartoon. Um, Ask my children how, they're my biggest fans. I mean, my youngest, he'll have his little friends over and he'll say, "Can I take your painting and go show my friends?" And they're like 6 and 7 years old, and I'm like,
Yeah.
they might not be interested in it, but sure, and he just walks
Yeah.
on, this is my mommy's art. She's so good. Look how good she is. And, and just
Yeah. That's awesome.
having that to remind myself that it's not about me entirely. You know, it's just a bad day, bad mental health day, and it'll pass.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I feel the same way. The kind of the blessing and curse of social media is that you can get on there and you can see, what other artists are doing, and it's like we said before, sometimes you can see other work and that inspires you to go out and create some, you want to go draw, you want to go paint or whatever. But at the same time, on the other side, sometimes you'll see all this stuff and you'll see other people and how quote unquote successful they have been, or what's going on in their career, and you think, man, like, why couldn't that happen for me, or whatever, and then you kind of get down on yourself. At least I've wrestled with that. And it's
Hmm.
exactly what you said. You have to remind yourself, like, that's not my life. I have my own life. I have my own things that are going on in my life that someone else could look at my life and feel the same way about that, like, so I have to,
Oh,
yeah, I have to
exactly.
constantly remind myself that that comparison is, it's death to an artist. You can't compare yourself with other people. Everyone has their own specific path to walk, and yeah, but it's hard
And also
because
a lot of sorry, keep going.
no, that's all I was gonna say. Go ahead.
Well, and like with the social media art, it's like going to a museum or seeing or a art festival and seeing in life, real in life art is completely different than getting on your phone or laptop and seeing these, sped up compilation videos where it looks like these people painted this in an hour when, in actuality, it's like they spent days or
Yeah,
weeks or months, and it's like that instant gratification I feel can really demotivate people,
yeah,
just not realizing how long it takes,
yeah, for sure.
and
Yeah,
you know limiting it is a good idea. How
yep.
much you take in. But would we be true artists if we didn't suffer from some imposter syndrome?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah. It's all part of the artistic suffering, I guess you could say. Yeah. I need to turn on a light. I know you can't tell from there, but I can't see. Maybe this will help a little bit. Just a little bit. Well, we've got about 6 or 7 minutes, so we're kind of winding down here. So that's been great conversation. And Matt, it's always good to hear from you. And I have no idea who else has watched or can see what we're doing. So, we always want to thank everyone for tuning in. And, a lot of people will come back and watch later. Maybe they didn't get a chance right now to do, watch it live, but sometimes they'll come back and watch the recorded version. So we're always thankful, definitely thankful for that. So, yeah, it just really, that's a big part of why we do this, is for other people to join the conversation or watch and think about that, some of the things that we've talked about for themselves. And yeah, hopefully this helps you grow as an artist or challenge you and inspire you to continue to create as well. Unfortunately, we couldn't have Seth with us today, but Miss Sarah really stepped in and helped us out, and I was really excited to be able to do this with her, because this just gives us a chance to get to know her and her art and the role that she plays at Voss, which has been absolutely amazing to get to know her. So I appreciate you jumping on here with me. Usually in the last couple minutes, we talk a little bit about what we got done today. And so, what for you, how's your painting going? Where you're at? Is it what you had hoped you could get accomplished? Yeah, just give us some thoughts on what you worked on tonight.
Yeah, I'm happy with where I'm at. It's nice getting this one off the wall and working on it. Yeah, just working on the. I do a lot of like thin, really thin layers with oils and
Mhm.
um, yeah. So I mean, I feel pretty good about what I've accomplished, and it's been fun, which to me is the most important part.
Yeah,
And I
so
successfully remixed the color that I needed to mix again. So
there you go. Awesome. Yeah, my eyes have been working between looking at my questions and my drawing, and so when I looked up, I see now the cat's body. So before it was just a cat's head floating there, from what I could see, and now I
yeah,
see the cat there. So that's it. That's exciting. So awesome. I also love the and I try to do this some with my charcoal drawing. The let's say the streams of blue coming down. I love like kind of the drip or whatever that is. Um, I love
yeah,
that kind of effect. Yeah, I love those kind of
yeah.
loose and expressive marks and things like that. I love that. So
Yeah, I'm gonna try to
awesome.
keep it, try to decide, how to still kind of incorporate it when I get the rest of the statue painted, because like I don't want to completely cover the drips that go down the statue. I like them, so I'm gonna have to play around and figure out how to kind of keep those in there. 'Cause I think it's neat.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah. So the next time you work on this, what are you going to work on next? What's the next step for you in that painting?
Next step for me is gonna be I'm gonna have to still finish some of my darker tones in here and kind of like blocking in, and then probably just go in with my next like a medium value, um, working those in, and then some lighter values, highlights, and then maybe even come back in afterwards with touch some areas that need to be darker and get some details in. I like to let my oil paints dry, so when we get to that last part, all of it will be dry and be able to get some more details in. And my goal is I want to do the colors different than the picture, and I remember what the stone statue looked like, but I really hope that I can eventually capture that it's a stone statue and not. Um, I just hope it looks like stone. That's
Yeah.
my goal.
No, that's great. Yeah, that's awesome. So when you finish this, what do you hope to do? Is this something that you'll try to sell? Is this something you'll keep? Is this something you'll give away? What's your plan for this painting?
Uh, if somebody wants it, that's awesome. My goal as an artist is next year getting into the unfair. They're going to be hopefully able to add about 30 more artists next year, and it would be great to be able to take it there. Have it finished uh, by next year, and have some of the other stuff that I'm working on finished. But other than that, it'll go up on my wall, and maybe I'll take it into Voss and put it in my studio in there.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's
So
awesome.
who
Oh,
knows?
good. Well, I got a pretty good chunk as far as laid out what I want with this page. It's hard to see because the light, it's gotten dark outside, and or darker, and right beside a window, and I try to put the light on up above, but it's not showing a lot of the detail. But you can see at least I've penciled in the three main figures there. There's a lot more going on. I can kind of go a little bit closer. Yeah, you can see a lot more of the little debris and little details and stuff that I started putting in there. But I've got my figures kind of where I want them. I need to go in and refine the proportion and anatomy and those kind of things. But I like where that all that's headed, and composition wise up top here. I had to be very mindful of leaving enough space above the figures for thought balloons and dialogue balloons. That sometimes you forget that when you're drawing these panels out, that you got to leave room for the words. And so sometimes when you make a drawing or a panel, it seems kind of empty, but you realize you're going to fill it in with other details too. So I'm feeling pretty good about this page. It's got a good start. And so probably over the next, hopefully maybe the next 2 weeks, because I usually just work on these pages during this live stream, so I don't get a lot of chance through the week to work on them. So hopefully in the next 2 sessions I should get this page done, and then we'll move on to the next page. So yeah, we're coming along a little bit slowly, but it'll be good. And then I might either do another pencil page, or I might do an ink page for the sessions after that. We'll kind of see how I feel at that point. So but we have just hit the 8 o'clock mark, so this is about time for us to wrap up our live stream. We thank you all so much for joining with us. Thank you, Sarah, for sitting in and joining with us, and we look forward to you coming back and being part of our conversation. Hopefully, on a regular basis, we'd love to have you. And
Yeah.
it was great conversation. And yeah, so we missed Seth, but we got even better with Sarah. That's what I have to say. So, but yeah, so. Thank you all. I'm
It
Chad,
was
also known as the Humble Wizard. This is Miss Sarah, and we had a great time with you all. And we are signing off, and we'll see you next Saturday. Thank you all. See ya.
Thanks. Y'all have a good night.